It's been a couple months since I've been laid off, and in that time, I've done some reflecting and I have a couple of lessons I want to share. For some context, this was my first job out of college. I went to a normal 4 year university, got a degree in business, and this job was doing marketing at a large financial services company. The first 1.5 years was pretty good. Um, I liked the work that I was doing. I was doing some really basic marketing stuff, like building email campaigns and creating brochures, things like that. I liked my team. I liked that I was in a new environment. The job also had pretty good work-life balance. So overall, it was not a bad gig. But after that 1.5 years, I got restructured into a new division. And there I was basically assigned a lot of administrative work. And so I wasn't doing a lot of marketing work that I was doing before. And I wasn't doing anything that I was originally promised or really personally passionate about. And as a result, after a couple months, I began contemplating leaving. This became even more the case when mid-year reviews came around because I got a pretty mixed performance review and I was also passed over for a potential promotion as well. And the main piece of criticism that I got was that I was too slow and too quote unquote unenthusiastic in my work and about the team. And I felt that I couldn't just simply explain that I was not very enthusiastic or that I didn't like what I was being assigned. I didn't want to seem like I wasn't a team player or that I was complaining. So I kind of sucked it up. I said that I would just do better. I'd do things faster, and I would be more enthusiastic, whatever that meant. And after that, my boss and I get assigned to a major product launch within the company. And overall, I did everything that I was assigned, and I made it a point to do it as fast as possible. And I thought that everything was going well. I didn't go above and beyond for anything because this was my first time working on a product launch, and I kind of wanted to just observe and see how things went. But overall, I did my work and I did it fast. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we get pulled into a company-wide marketing meeting, and my boss gets called out by the head of marketing for the entire company to give an update on the product launch. And my boss basically put on the spot says that the launch will be ready in 2 weeks. Now, me having some background knowledge, I know that it's not going to be done in 2 weeks. There's no chance. It's going to take at least another month, maybe 2 months to get everything ready and fully launched. But because of this overpromising, he afterwards gets really, really stressed. And I can see it in the way that he speaks, in the way that he talks, and just what he expresses to me about how worried he is that he's not going to get everything done in 2 weeks. And a week later, I get called into a meeting with him, and I thought everything was fine. I felt that I was still doing whatever I was assigned and doing it as fast as possible. But he says that I'm still being too slow and too unenthusiastic. And I know from my end that a lot of that is coming out of his personal stress because of, again, his overpromising. And it did feel like he was trying to put some of the blame on me for his mistake or because of the stress that he was feeling. But again, I felt that I really couldn't call him out. It wasn't my place to call him out for that. So I just kind of accepted it. And in hindsight after that, I do feel that my manager got a bit more cold and distant from me after that meeting. And to give it a couple more weeks, next thing you know, I'm laid off. From this experience, I took away three key lessons. I think the third lesson is probably the most personal and the most important, but to get into it, the first lesson is to never trust what they say. They being corporate leadership. They will promise you a lot of things, especially after these major events such as restructurings, layoffs, bringing in new leadership, anything like that. Those events should kind of be major warning signs as well, by the way, that things are not as stable as you might think they are. But that's besides the point. The point is that after these things, these leaders will promise a lot of things to soothe and to pacify their employees. They'll say things like, if you can just stick this out, there'll be so much opportunity on the other side. Or that they'll say, I know we just had a big round of layoffs, but you guys are completely safe. There's no need to worry. Okay. And ultimately, the point is that they just say these things to say them, and you have no power to hold them to their word, right? They may care about you personally. They may actually want to, have you not panic or anything like that. But their responsibility is firstly to themselves and to their managers and to the company. And so they have to say these things, even if it's not what they personally believe, or if they don't feel that it's the most helpful for their employees or for their reports at the time. And ultimately, the reason is because even if they want to say something or be very truthful and candid, at the end of the day, they can only say what the company tells them to say. This is why when I was dealing with, my mid-year performance review and them saying that I was slow and unenthusiastic, I asked them, what can I do to be better, basically? And their quote unquote improvement plan for me was to do a bunch of, you know, courses about some random marketing stuff, to join business groups, which are basically like social clubs within the company. They have one for Asian people and other ethnicities, and they have one for veterans and stuff like that. And also to use AI as well, which is a totally different topic, but they were basically treating AI as some magic tool that can double and triple your output, because that's what you know senior leaders and management frame AI as. So that's what they told me to do. And even if I, expressed what I really felt about the work I was being assigned, they can't change it. They can't just change it, right? Because someone needs to do it. So instead of being able to have that candid, honest conversation with them, they just told me, the corporate jargon that was told to them about how I can help and improve myself. And so they can promise to help, right? They can promise a lot of security, a lot of things, but again, don't trust them, right? They're just saying what they need to say in order to satisfy the company and satisfy their managers and protect their own position. And they'll say whatever to you in order to get you to feel safe and to not panic and to feel that they care about you. But if they're promising something to you, if they're trying to get you to feel some type of way, don't trust it, right? Think for yourself. The second lesson is to be ready to leave at any time. Since I couldn't express what I truly felt, I should have just left as soon as possible for another job. I did, revamp my resume right before I got laid off and lost access to my computer, so that was a really good thing. But I should have done it a lot earlier. The reason I didn't was because I wanted to stay long enough to get my retirement vested. Basically, what that means, if you don't know, is that companies will give you some money for retirement, and if you stay long enough with the company, you can get that money. That money will become yours. But it's a really bad idea nowadays. My case is, I think, a prime example where I wanted to stay to get that vested money, but I was laid off before that amount of time, so I didn't get anything at all. And this is because the social contract has been fundamentally broken. I mean, corporations are now no longer loyal to you like they once were 50, 100 years ago. 100 years ago, you could expect to work at a company for decades and decades, and you would get your retirement and pension. And, they would take care of you. You wouldn't have to worry about your job security. And as a result, you would give them your time and your effort and help them make money. And so it's kind of a mutual relationship, unspoken agreement. But nowadays, we've come to this place, especially post COVID, where layoffs are the norm, right? And like a company can lay off like 20, 30% of their employees, and that's not even a quote unquote like bad sign anymore, right? It's just normal now. So because they brought us to this point, and there's nothing that we can, as individuals, can do to change that. We just have to kind of reflect the same energy. If they're not going to be loyal and long-term minded towards us anymore, then why would we be loyal and long-term minded to them, especially in a field like marketing? Maybe if you work in engineering or healthcare, you have a lot longer of a runway than white collar business jobs do. But for us marketing people, there's really no reason to feel or to expect that you'll work at a company for decades and decades. Like there's a higher chance that you'll probably get laid off before that happens. And if that's the case, practically, you need to be ready to leave at any time, either voluntarily or voluntarily. So this means keeping your resume up to date, having a list off of your company laptop of all the things that you've done, and just kind of being aware of what the market is like, what jobs are out there, kind of searching and seeing what opportunities are open to you. And also getting side income, side hustles, things like that too. The last piece of advice is probably, in my opinion, the most important, and it's to always push back against criticism of you as a person. When I initially received that mixed performance review, I didn't really push back that much. I thought that I could satisfy their demands by working harder and by trying to appear more enthusiastic. But by doing that and not by arguing back, I basically admitted that I was slow and unenthusiastic. I think that definitely factored into my layoff of why it was me as opposed to somebody else. And the point is that even if it was true that I was slow and unenthusiastic, I should have denied it 100%. I had my own reasons for feeling the way that I did about my work at the time, but when it comes to that kind of criticism, you always have to push back. And I'm not talking about criticism where, you get criticized for doing one task wrong, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about criticism of your character or you as a person, about your work ethic or your habits, or about your enthusiasm or loyalty to the company, right? If someone says you're a lazy person, or if someone says you don't care about the company like the rest of the team, or you're not a hard worker, that's a different kind of criticism. And that kind of criticism, you have to always push back against 100%. If you don't push back against it, your passivity and your silence will be taken as you admitting that it's true, and that's going to be used against you in the future. So that's the case. Whether you're planning to stay at that company for a long time or whether you know that layoffs are coming, regardless of the situation, you should always push back against that kind of criticism, right? That kind of general criticism about all the work that you do, or about you as a person, or about the way that you work fundamentally. That kind of stuff you can never really recover from if you don't push back from it. And it's not that if you push back on it, that they'll just suddenly change the way that they'll look at you. But at the very least, they'll question that, or at the very least, it'll just buy you some extra time, right, to do your next move or to leave so that you don't get laid off out of nowhere. So that's basically my story. 3 lessons that I took away that I'm hoping not to repeat again in the future.